Good afternoon to those of you joining us. Maybe good evening for some of you. It's actually about 7 o'clock in the morning here. So if you're joining me from this side of the Atlantic, good morning to you. I was very excited to be invited to talk about microlearning. It's something that we haven't really explored a whole lot, but we have a couple of examples that I want to share and just see if that helps spark any inspiration in you as you are doing any of your projects as well. So just a very quick background. I work at the National Weather Service Training Center, which is located in Kansas City, Missouri. It's about the center part of the continental US, for those who are unfamiliar. My role is actually to teach science communication, which is a very tricky topic. Before that, I was a television meteorologist, and I've been an instructor for a couple of universities. So I've seen a few different types of learning styles as I've went through my career so far. And microlearning is really not a new concept for the training industry, but it's not widely used in the science world, I'm finding. And I think that's just because, it's a complex topic, what we do, and it requires time and experimentation and really getting deep into the content to fully understand your science. But I do have a few examples where microlearning has been the best approach for some of our topics. We're going to go through those for most of this presentation. But to start us off, I thought I'll be clever and I'll start us with the definition of microlearning, the global definition that everyone should follow. And I found quickly while I was searching for that global definition that it didn't really exist. It sort of depends on what training industry leader or what training expert you look at as to how they define microlearning. But there are a few common characteristics, and I want to carry those throughout the presentation today. And that's brief and focused. When you think of microlearning, you're going to have brief content focused on one topic. I did also learn in my research that microlearning is not just videos. My background, because I came from television first, and now I produce a lot of videos for my training job, I kind of thought microlearning was just videos, but it really can be anything. It could be text, it could be images, it could be just a quick instructional guide, or it could be something like a quiz or an exam. So in general, the benefits of microlearning is, if it's going to be brief, it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper and faster to make. So microlearning has been very hot in some parts of the training industry because it does save money and time. Due to its brevity, microlearning is more flexible when a user wants to refresh on the information they learn. It gives them more control over where and when they take their training. I've also seen a couple of studies, I didn't get to dive into it as much as I'd like, but I'm definitely going to follow up, where there are some studies suggesting that microlearning can boost retention because the way that it is inherently designed makes it easier for refresh. So to apply that specifically to atmospheric science, the National Weather Service in the US, our trainees encounter pretty much the same challenges that a lot of other trainees in other industries encounter. We have those who just really can't travel. At the training center in Kansas City, we host residence courses. People come here for 3 days to several weeks at times, and that's just not an option for everyone. We also have heard over the years that time management is challenging for our workforce because when a module that they have to take online is 6 to 8 hours, it's really hard to fit that into their normal daily work if they're not given a training shift to take that course. And sometimes that's just the reality, is they have to take training in between their operational tasks. And that's related to the last challenge that really we face in the National Weather Service, and that is, as you all know, the weather doesn't stop, so neither do our employees. They may be taking training early in the morning, overnight, squeezing it in between one task that they have to do for their operational shift and another. So it's really looking at what works the best for them. But microlearning is not the easiest to apply to some of these more complex topics in the science world. Those complex topics, we kind of talked about this. It requires in-depth analysis for you to really understand your science. And if your training project requires that you have an exam or something formal to assess the person's ability before you can give them some sort of credential, microlearning also may not be the best choice. Just thinking from my projects, if I gave the workforce 20 videos that were maybe 1 to 3 minutes long, focused on one topic, but I had to give them a quiz at the end of each one, they would get frustrated with me pretty quickly, and the emails would start coming in at about video 5. So it just really depends on what you need out of your training, because sometimes microlearning just won't be the best option. And I'm thinking back to graduate school and what we learned. I went to graduate school for meteorology, and we learned about forecasting the weather, but it was like the very end of the curriculum. We actually started with learning how the atmosphere worked. And at first I thought, man, this is a lot of prelude to get to the good stuff, the forecasting, the warnings. But we have to know that in the science, because if we don't know how the atmosphere works, we can't identify when models are not handling the situation correctly, and we won't be able to adjust our forecasts accordingly. We would miss it a lot more if we didn't know the science behind what our models are showing us. So that is a big challenge for us whenever we're looking at how to structure our training, is how deep do we need to go into the topic, and what realistic time does our audience have to complete that training? And we have a lot of courses in the National Weather Service that focus on forecasts and warnings, and they are definitely not in a micro-learning format, and they would not go well with that format. The other topic, and this one is my specialty, what I do in the Weather Service, is media training, for example, or it could be other communication topics, but this one is specifically my subject that I teach. There's really no correct answer to how to answer an interview question from the news media. You might have several different ways. It might be the same idea, but there's a lot of considerations on how to respond. And really, you need that consultation component and numerous examples to help people learn how to speak clearly in a media interview and deliver the best science communication. So that is a complex enough topic that it's overall not suitable for a pure microlearning strategy. But now I spent some time telling you why it might not work for us, but I want to show you some examples for the rest of my time on how it does work, and really what's been successful for us and why. I mean, we do hit a lot of deep science topics, but the first topic I wanted to tell you about is actually a communication topic, and that is our public speaking video series. Now, this example of microlearning, we knew from the beginning exactly what we needed to do, which is not always the case with some training assignments, right? We don't always know who we're going to be speaking to and what they need out of the training. But this one we knew is our staff did not have widespread public speaking really training at all. A lot of the times when you graduate and you have your degree before you come to the National Weather Service, there's not a lot of requirement for speaking or communications training. A lot of folks take it as electives, but not everyone. So we knew we wanted to help our staff better deliver scientific information. And we knew that this was going to be video based because we wanted to demonstrate these techniques. But from there, we really were not sure how to break up something like this. And that's where microlearning came in for us. We broke this into 25 public speaking videos that we host on YouTube, as well as our internal learning management system. We have topics like breathing, reducing filler words, avoiding jargon, body language, and really just lots of little topics that all connect to make someone a better speaker. Talking about brief, let's carry that out, these two characteristics out throughout the rest of our time. They're about 2.5 minutes on average. We have a couple that are a little longer, a couple that are a little shorter, but that definitely hits that brief criteria that I've seen for microlearning. Focused, all of our videos, except for one of them, is focused on a single topic and really single method to improve whatever that topic is. The one video that isn't focused on that single topic is on different techniques that breathing can help you improve. And it just didn't make sense to break those things apart. So we've got brief, we've got focused. How did our audience respond? We've actually received great feedback on this one. A lot of folks said that they really needed this type of training and they love that they can refer back to it. If they're getting ready to do a presentation, I've had a few anecdotally tell me that they would go watch one of the videos real quick and refresh themselves on a technique. Our videos get about 6,000 views on average. I mean, that's still growing and will continue to grow over time. Because we didn't really broadcast these publicly, most of those views are coming from the National Weather Service. However, we do have one that's 47,000 views. As good as the video is, I guarantee that's not just the National Weather Service taking that one. So it seems like maybe there's someone out there that has found use for this video as well that's not in the Weather Service. The next training effort that I wanted to bring up, also in the lines of communication, and this is about impact-based decision support services, or IDSS, and the curriculum that we designed to teach that topic. This was quite different than the public speaking video series. We were asked to develop a curriculum that reflects the skills that our employees needed to directly support our core partners, which includes emergency managers. It might be government officials, it could be water resource managers, and we have a few other types as well. Before I dive into that, I do have a very brief tangent. This project came about because we wanted to embrace a different training industry concept, the flipped classroom. We had this course that was very well done, and a lot of people really enjoyed. It was a lecture-based week-long course about decision support services. Over time, we realized that we needed to take the next step. And we took all of the content from that course, put it online, and then what was left, we had a 4-day time span where we could just really do exercises and test. And we felt like it was a lot more important for us to be there with the trainees as they applied the information versus learning the information at the first time out. So that's my tangent. Is this actually came about because of trying to flip our classroom, which we did do. And what we ended up with was 7 categories. We focused on anything from decision support basics. What does it mean? What do we do in the National Weather Service? Who are our partners? That was another topic. How do we best communicate our science? Then we also have an entire series of categories focused on deploying, because that's a big thing for us right now in the National Weather Service that we've really been improving over the last several years. We will actually go to the location that one of our core partners is stationed at. Maybe it's an emergency manager, and we will sit right next to them and provide them with weather support. So that's a whole new thing than what we learned in school, what we were doing before. So we definitely have a few sets of training topics focused on that. But this was a large project. Definitely, this whole thing was not microlearning. We have a few different varieties of how it's broken up, but I do want to share that disclaimer to start us off. This whole curriculum is not microlearning, but it's kind of a hybrid because it is so large. The materials from our emergency managers partners that we received and put into our curriculum, they're more of what you expect from traditional old school online learning. They're 6 to 8 hours worth of content, text, on a web page that you continue through until you take your exam. And it's great information, but they are quite long and quite difficult to get through. So for the content that the training center built out ourselves, that we built from scratch, we wanted to kind of do the opposite. And this is where the microlearning came into effect. We realized that we couldn't be brief enough to only cover a 10-minute window. We knew that we had way too much content for that. We also knew that we couldn't just do one topic, but our goal was the same as the goal of microlearning. We did get it down to about 3 to 5 objectives per module focused on one topic. And I would say maybe 15 to 30 minutes is the average for our length of modules. And there are a lot of videos and exercises built into them, but we have some up to about 45 minutes as well. This was a big step for us, though, in the direction of microlearning, and really one of the first training curricula that did this sort of approach. We're starting to see it a little bit more now, and we definitely have an evolution coming up for this curriculum. We are going to start refining this information as we go forward. It's aged a little bit. I definitely foresee microlearning in the future for this curriculum. We've had good feedback, too. Our learners, I think one of the very first feedback forms I saw after we launched the curriculum, it was from a forecaster that said, "Thank goodness this isn't 5 hours long. It was a 15-minute course. Thank you." So I think that what we're doing is working for them. And definitely this is a required curriculum. It's a lot of training, and they've been very appreciative of having those breaks in there. Now, the next example I wanted to provide, completely different than the first two. The first two were very communication focused. This is a very technical topic. So when the first GOES-R series satellite launch, which is now GOES 16 or GOES East, there were a lot of new components that we were going to receive, and our operational staff, they had a lot to learn about. So our team was part of this from the beginning, thinking about the approach. I mean, the goal was really to create training that tackled all of these exciting new features that we could receive from these satellites. And we had to not only go through each one, we needed to illustrate to our operational staff how you use these different products. And of course, with this evolution in technology, there are a lot of new features to go through. So this was a big leap and a lot to cover. The team who put this together sat down and realized they had about 15 to 20 hours of materials. That was just way too much for like 1 or 2 courses. It was too much content. There wasn't enough break, not enough application. So they determined that the best approach would be sort of a micro-learning approach, where they created 10 to 20-minute videos, a little bit longer than what you might consider brief, but considering the topic, I definitely think they did a great job shrinking that down. I'd say most are 10 to 15 minutes. There are a few, though, that are closer to 20. And they all focused on one specific topic. It might have been one band from the satellite. So maybe they focused the entire 10 to 20 minutes on the near IR band. I also saw where they had some specific features. That was the one topic for their learning. I saw a video on cumulus growth, and it was very helpful because that's all they focused on. And then you got a little application and you got to take a break. Now, I was not part of this team. This was happening about the same time that I was building that decision support training, but I have personally taken a few of these courses and heard some feedback anecdotally. And it feels like that folks really appreciated, yet again, the ability to go back and refresh, especially as maybe they learned about this tool and the imagery, a year before they actually needed to use it operationally. Well, they were able to go back and review some of that content to get ready for whatever operational event was coming up. And of course, we had brand new, beautiful satellite imagery at amazing spatial resolution. So videos just made sense because then you could really see what that product was and get an idea of how to use it. The last example is actually our most recent one. This is the National Weather Service. We have this chat platform that we use to communicate not only internally as we forecast and the weather moves from place to place, but we also use it to collaborate with our core partners. So those emergency managers, the media is also on our chat platform. We also use it for training quite a bit. The original platform was developed internally, and over time, it just really couldn't maintain the infrastructure to meet the demand, which was both good and bad. I mean, we definitely were sad that our tool couldn't handle the attention it was getting, but we were excited that it was getting attention. So after researching some options, there was a team of folks at the Weather Service headquarters and some field experts that helped us find the company Slack. They ended up being the ones that just really met our need. And together we created NWS Chat 2.0. And now we are hosting our chat on their infrastructure so we can continue to use our chat platform. And it really has the same functionalities that we had before, but a lot more. And it looks very, very different. So my team was tasked with the training for deploying NWS Chat 2.0. And we were incredibly lucky to be paired with the Slack company's trainers because they were amazing. They knew exactly what to do. They actually created most of the materials, and really our role became consultation. How do we take what they can do with their training experts and make it customized for our workforce? So a lot of what we did was consultation. We do host all of these videos, though, on our internal learning management system so we can track our employees as they take this training. The training ended up taking, we have lots of different pieces of the training, but the required training that we have to take, any NWS employee has to take before they can start using this chat platform. It consists of 5 videos. They are all between 4 and 12 minutes long. So once again, hitting that brief criteria for microlearning. And each video focuses on one component of this chat platform. So one video is about just kind of overviewing how everything's laid out. Another video is about the channels that you need to use to communicate. Another video is about like preferences and how you can set up your notifications and make Slack work in a way that is the best for you. We also have an additional microlearning component, because with each of these videos, there is a one-page how-to guide that goes with each one. So once again, keeping it brief, keeping it very focused on one topic, and it's focused on the tasks that you need to perform in NWS Chat 2.0. I absolutely cannot take credit for this, but because we're talking about microlearning, I had to give a very quick shout out to these Slack trainers that helped us, because they have this fun thing they do for training called Slack Snacks. And they just put out maybe a 2-minute video that explains or refreshes how to use a component of the platform. And what I really like is that they put it right in the platform itself. You log in one day, here's a Slack snack refreshing you on how to do a certain protocol. So definitely, I wish I could take credit for that one, but that was all them. So far, the reception's been great. We are just at the end of deploying NWS Chat 2.0. We officially launched in August, so it's not been very long yet. Along with the microlearning, we did have some webinar-led or some instructor-led webinars that both our internal employees at the Weather Service took. And now we're going through the process of doing that for our external partners so they can learn how to use this new platform and we can all get back to communicating together. And one facet that I really think is something worth considering as you move forward in your projects, and definitely I'm going to consider, is access. Because this particular training project taught me how important it is to be able to get to your materials, especially if they're in that microlearning format where you can refresh all the time and watch it over and over again, or read it over again. It's where do you put this information? I love how Slack built it right into the platform itself. Yes, our internal employees have to take it for credit on our internal learning management system, but that refresher piece, we don't even have to get out of the platform to see the training. And we've heard great things about that as well. I definitely think people were so excited to get Slack. The folks who have to use it were very quick to adapt to it and very excited, because it was such a great tool to keep doing what we've been doing. That's it for as far as the projects that I've been a part of so far, or that I've known the team that has worked on it and kind of their goals behind it. I did want to share, as I was putting this content together, I thought, man, I have a couple of ideas, and I'm hoping that's happening to you too, that you're having a couple of ideas about how microlearning may fit any approach that you're trying to take. One is, we have a ton of maintenance courses in the National Weather Service. We bring in technicians from all over to Kansas City. They're here from anywhere from 3 days to 6 to 8 weeks. I'm not really sure how long the longest course is, but it is several weeks long. They get here and they go through all of these very tricky protocols, some of which are life-threatening because they're dealing with like electricity and having to do that properly so they don't get electrocuted on the job. But I'm hearing that when they go home, they often start to lose that information, which is, that's what happens whenever you take training. Over time, you start to lose it if you don't have anything helping you remember. They do have manuals. They have very specific guidelines on what they're supposed to do for their equipment, but it's still hard for them to go back to class and watch that procedure. So one of the instructors that teaches for the maintenance field came to me and said, hey, I really want to make this video library because I'm hearing that people need to watch a video before they do some tasks. And I said, this is a great example of when you could use microlearning. And I explained the concept to her, and she was very excited for it. I am not actually on this team, so I don't know what has happened so far. But the last I heard, that was going to be maybe a small video library with a few task-based videos. And then for those people who are new technicians, they might get assigned to take all of them initially and then can go back and take them as refresher later on. And the other light bulb moment that I had whenever I was putting this information together, I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that I teach media training. That is my claim to fame, the thing that I'm the most passionate about. It's not a great topic for microlearning just because of the way that we have to show so many examples. But I do think an idea I'm going to pursue in the future now is to create microlearning style videos based on low frequency, high packed events to help people get ready for the big media push that comes afterwards. An example of this might be tsunamis. I'm quite close to the tsunami warning coordinator that works in the National Tsunami Warning Center for the US. And one thing that he mentioned is that our forecasters in the different offices along the West Coast, they struggle to remember how to talk about tsunamis whenever they do media interviews because they don't do it very often. So when the big event comes and there's so much media interest that we have to have our local offices talk to the media about some of it, they're not sure how to approach it. So this could be a great opportunity for just a really quick spin up video, couple reminders, very specific to tsunami. An additional idea, and I threw this here at the end, and he's welcome to jump in and expand on it if he would like, but our Chief Learning Officer, John Ogren, he went to a conference at one point and he learned about this great company that's doing refresher training or initial training right there on like your mobile phone. So this is microlearning at its very core because all you have is this phone that you're going to get information on. It has to be brief. It has to be focused. And it seems like that it has gone really well. There was a couple case studies in that presentation where people actually retained more information. They did better over time on those certain skills because they got little pieces at a time sent to them. They got to practice it before they got another piece sent to them. This could really work for us. Thinking about how busy our operational forecasters are, I'd really like to pursue this for some of our topics and figure out a way to just help them retain the information without sitting down at a computer and spending 6 hours going back through modules that they've already taken. So I don't know, John, if you're still on here, if you have anything that you wanted to add to that one before I moved on. I'm going to take that one as a no, but maybe we'll come back to it. All right. So, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, my computer was being delayed. So yeah, you covered it really well. And I'm really not sure what that topic is, and I'm excited about it. But it was one of those learning conferences you go to, and a young guy comes on stage and says, "What if I told you I could train your workforce one text at a time?" And everyone in the room was like, "Okay, go back to grad school. There's no way this is going to work." But some of the case studies he showed, the one that really stuck with me was nothing to do with weather, water, or climate forecasting, but everything to do with cancer docs. So if you're going to be a board certified oncologist and cancer doctor, and so it was a major university in Boston, and to remain board certified, you need to take exams every so often to show that you're keeping up with the science. And so a very technical topic. And so rather than taking 2 days to go to seminar to keep their certifications up, they hired this company, and for board certified refresher training, they received one text a day for a month. And so for the doctors, they loved it because they didn't have to take 2 days away from treating patients. On a break during lunch, whenever they would receive a text, they would have to interact with it for about 5 minutes. They would respond to it and put it away for the day. But then the very next day, they would get another bit of information that they would have to interact with. And their research showed in the end was that the retention of the information that was shared over that 1 month period, because they were immersed in it, actually went up. The exam scores went up. And the percentage of doctors that actually started using these new techniques with their patients actually went up as well. So it's pretty amazing stuff. I don't know how that's going to work, and Megan and I will put our heads together on what our first topic would be. But I'm very curious to at least give it a try.
Absolutely. I definitely think there's an avenue there. It's just a matter of what is the most beneficial for our staff. So exciting times. Maybe, who knows, we'll be back on here talking about this someday in the future. That's really all I had for this presentation, because I wanted to leave a little bit of time in case anyone wanted to bring up anything or had questions. But just overall, to wrap this up, if you want to look into microlearning, there are some benefits. It's brief and it's focused. It can be very good for some topics. but there is a limitation in that depending on the complexity of the topic, it may not be suitable for everything. We have found that when we've attempted either true microlearning or something in the neighborhood of microlearning, our trainees have really appreciated it, and they've written some very positive things. My personal fear when I embraced it the first time was they're going to see this list of 25 public speaking videos and just not want to do it. They're going to be so overwhelmed by the list, and that really wasn't the case at all. I don't remember one complaint about how many videos there were. We didn't require all 25, but we've heard so many good things that people really, really enjoy not having to find time to cram in longer training. So I think we're going to keep pursuing it. And with that, I would love to answer any questions. If I can't answer them, I'm sure John can pop back on and answer them as well. If you would, maybe just type them in the chat. I see we have a few coming in, and we will just tackle them until we're out of questions or out of time.
Thank you for the presentation. Yes, we have 4 questions in the chat.
Okay. Let me get down here.
First one is from Becky.
Okay, first one from Becky. You mentioned that you host videos on your learning management system. Which system do you use? And do you find many users watch the videos on the LMS or more on YouTube? Fantastic question. We had just been talking about this the other day, actually, as we were strategizing how to approach some updates to our YouTube channel. The learning management system we go through a company called Cornerstone. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I know they've been doing it for several years now. And it is NOAA, like the way we have it set up, only our NOAA employees log into our specific section of this learning management system. So it's not just National Weather Service employees, but NOAA employees can get a lot of our content as well. I would say the bulk of our trainees go through the LMS because they get the credit for taking it. But I think a lot of our view counts, which we do get a view count on YouTube from people taking or watching the video in the LMS. But I think a lot of our higher view counts are because people go back to the YouTube channel and refresh. I also know that there are a few maintenance videos that we have out there. I've heard that a lot of the technicians like to load up some of the YouTube videos up on their tablets before they go out into the field. And that they do through YouTube directly, not the LMS. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, let me know and I'll keep going. The next one. The videos on public speaking skills, are they freely available to everyone? If yes, where can they be accessed? Yes, they are freely available to everyone. I'm trying to think of the link at the top. If you just go to YouTube and you search NWS Learning Office, that will get you there because they're on I've tagged it to our homepage. So unless anyone's just a really quick Googler and can throw that into chat, just search it on YouTube and you can find all those videos. Let's see the next one. Megan, how is Slack supporting learning? Is it used for informal chat? Are questions on the modules shared there? Do you propose some structured learning there, or how do people use it? This is a whole new world for us in Slack. Right now, the Slack is being used for our operational needs. We did internal training, so the Weather Service was ready to go and use the tool, and we have everybody up and running. They're using the chat platform right now to communicate outside of the Weather Service and talk to our emergency management partners, our media partners, and really talk through things as an event is unfolding. We're also using it internally a little bit to collaborate. But since we just deployed, we have not really explored everything that Slack has to offer. I have heard that we are going to start having more networking and training based kinds of things happening within the platform itself. It would not be official that you would get a score recorded for like what happens in our learning management system. But I've seen where those Slack snacks are going to continue. I've seen where there are folks who are wanting to share information on how they've approached a presentation that maybe they gave to a school. So we're really just starting to open that door as to what's going to happen with Slack. Me personally, I teach a course called the IDSS, Impact-Based Decision Support Services Bootcamp. It's the course I mentioned that we restructured and turned into this intense 4-day exercise. we are going to use Slack and our NWS Chat 2.0 platform to simulate real chatting as we're simulating a disaster. So we're going to make it as realistic as possible. We did that with the old platform and plan to do that on the new platform as well. John, do you have any other information on that one?
Well, just for those that are familiar with Slack and have used Slack, the way we're using it is completely different. And the company is really excited because it's the first example of where Slack is being used for communication and coordination for life and property type missions. So that was our first priority, was to get that in place. Now that that has been implemented, and gosh, I think we've trained over 250,000 people on how to use Slack for the communications piece of that. Now that that's done, we can really explore as to how we might be able to use Slack in the future. So it might be that we utilize it for training. We're just not doing it yet.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Next question comes from Becky. Who creates your microlearning? Is it internal or do you employ an external company? And how long does one microlearning take to create? It really depends on the topic. We don't necessarily contract out much for videos because we have a few of us in-house who have a video background. Since I was in television, I did news reports all the time that I had to edit together. I also went to school for broadcasting. So anytime I personally have a project like a microlearning set of videos, I take it on myself and I edit it on my own. We also have a fantastic editor that works with any instructor who really needs it here at the training center. And she can put together very quick videos or even longer videos if that's what the training solution is. I don't know that we've contracted out much for microlearning. As far as how long it takes, it really just depends on the video. We have some videos that are sort of like this. They're sort of a webinar with like this person's head visible and they go to slides. Those ones are easy. We could knock those out in, a couple of hours once we have the content completely created. It's just a matter of recording, editing it so that way it looks nice. But sometimes I get a little creative and we have scripts and acting and we bring in people from different parts of our building and get them all together. That can take quite a bit more time. I shot a video about body language, and it was specifically talking about misreading one body language cue and not looking at the whole picture. So I had 5 actors in that one. I had to write a script. I had to get them all together at the same time. I want to say if I was doing nothing else, which we all know never happens, we never focus on just one thing. If I was doing nothing else, it'd have been about a week's worth of work. So for a 2-minute video, it can take a lot of time. It just depends on how creative you are. And if you're doing it yourself, how good your video skills are if it's video based. Have you ever used the podcast format for microlearning? Not so far, and I'm gonna surprise John for a moment. One of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I'm surprising John because he would be the star of this effort, is I've always wanted to have a podcast that's a training podcast that catches people up on what's going on, and really maybe it starts with John, who's this is the thing on his brain, this podcast. This is the thing he wants. Let's go see what's happening with it. Not only just to let people know what we're doing, but also to let people know, where is this effort coming from? A lot of the training things that we do, they don't start here. They didn't come from my brain. They probably didn't come from John's brain. They probably came from someone in the field that needed the resources to do it, or with something that we've seen elsewhere that's really worked that we want to adapt. So I think some kind of conversation to keep things going would be great, and a podcast format would really fit that well in terms of accessibility. We could do that on our YouTube channel, and also just in terms of production time. So thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because I keep forgetting to tell John that I have this idea. So now he knows. I think that's all of the questions I see right now, unless anyone else has another question.
I'm not seeing anything. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And I guess I'll add one quick thing, because I know many of you are already familiar that we do partner with Comet an awful lot, and working with Liz Page and Svet, we're really working towards having Comet doing more with micro learning as well. So a lot of our core science that we partner with them that is shareable across the world, we're moving in that direction as well, because that's just really been the customer demand, if you will, the participants and employees that are looking for training that much more shorter, direct, and applicable type of training. So it seems to be the direction of the world. We just need to find that balance to where you need some background knowledge in order to understand it, but where's the right balance in there?
Well, thank you. I'll just close by saying thank you for having me. This has been so much fun to dive into this and really look at what we've been doing. It sparked some ideas in me. I hope it did in you as well. If you ever, I have my contact information available. If you ever want to just like collaborate and talk about some things, I love hearing what you're doing that's working. I'd love to share what I'm doing that's working. No need to reinvent the wheel. So if you have something you want to talk through, I'd love to brainstorm with you.